Ma'ams and sirs, welcome to the Jared Bellmund Show. We are located in our own homes and offices in order to continue safe work processes. My goal is to assist you in your personal and professional growth by talking to community leaders like our guest, lrice. This episode is brought to you by Pro 16 Productions. Pro 16 Productions combines experience, passion, and innovation to capture the essence of your projects. lrice stays busy as the events and communication manager for the Blue Ridge Humane Society, as well as being involved with local and regional sporting events on the production side. When she's not facilitating things, Laura is an avid cyclist and races cyclocross, the steeplechase of bike racing. She also enjoys hiking with her husband, Kyle, and obviously is definitely enjoying all the amazing opportunities this local area has to offer with her friends and family. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you.
Oh, it is my pleasure to have you on. So, cyclocross, how did you even get started in that?
Well, this is when I can kind of like geek out for a little bit. It's a fun tale. I was exposed to it kind of as a teenager when I was first starting to get interested in recreation, and was told about this event that was taking place that was the epitome of like what a recreation professional can help facilitate. So I go and watch this and see these people zipping around super fast on bikes around Jackson Park here in Hendersonville, and was amazed by it. I would end up racing it, but then ended up having the opportunity in college to start with the Mars Hill cycling team, and kind of fell into it that way. Got involved as a volunteer before I started racing, actually, and then jumped in and started, and I'm hooked. So it's been about 9 years that I've raced that.
That's awesome. So is there a specific cyclocross bicycle?
There is, yes. It's very similar to a road bike. So it has the drop handlebars, same type of frame geometry, but you've got a knobby tire. So not as big as a mountain bike tire, but still knobby, because with cyclocross, like steeplechase, you're going from hard surface to soft surface. You're going from pavement to gravel to mud. You can get off the bike, which is part of the challenge, go over barriers, run up steps, that sort of thing. So you want a bike that can kind of do it all. It may not do one thing particularly well, but it does everything just well enough that you can go out and take whatever the course has that day.
That sounds amazing. So I was a cross-country runner in high school and college. So I ran on the cross-country team in Appalachian. And then I also ran steeplechase. So that was a big recruitment for college for me, was that I was a steeplechaser. And so I loved having to jump over things and jump up on things and over water, and just the added burdens of the race just kind of separates you from just getting on a bike and riding. So yeah, that's very intriguing.
Yeah, and getting on a bike and riding is fantastic too. I mean, that's a huge part of my, daily, weekly routine. So, that's great in its own way. But yeah, there's a thrill to it, and a little extra challenge that you don't find every day.
That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So you're the events and communication manager at Blue Ridge Humane Society. So what does that entail? What is, I don't know, a typical, what are your job responsibilities? What is a typical day? And obviously I'm sure a typical day today does not look like it did 6 months ago, but what are your job responsibilities?
Yeah. So I oversee basically all of our communications. So if you get our newsletter, e-newsletter, you're following us on Facebook, different things like that, I get to oversee that and kind of coordinate between myself and some of the other staff. Try to keep it interesting, engaging, educational, all that good stuff. So that's the biggest part of the communications. Obviously, in the last 6 months, things have changed dramatically. So there's been a lot of different communication now, a lot more of what you would call crisis communication with, oh no, we're having to close our doors and we're all working from home, or our thrift store's closed and now we're reopening. So it's been an interesting kind of diving into communicating in a bigger way as we've needed to in response to COVID and all that sort of stuff. But it's also been really satisfying to know that I can fill that role and help get the information out there to people on a wide spectrum of, whether they're shoppers or donors or people who need our services, just finding all the different ways to get that message out. So that's kind of the communications part. The events part is not really going right now, or going in a totally different way, because like so many of our other nonprofits in the area, our events have basically stopped, or in-person events anyway. So when it comes to our events, I oversee and coordinate with our development director, lrice Griffin, who is another wonderful community member.
Yeah, amazing person.
All of our, she is. I love having her on our team. She joined us in January, just in time for all this brand new weird stuff, but it's been amazing working with her. And so we do our fundraising events for the most part. So that's kind of, we've had to pivot and see what are things that we can do that are more online based or more conversational based with people versus bringing groups together. Because right now it's not safe to do that. And we don't feel like that's something that's in our mission, is to, we're here for the animals, and we're not necessarily ready to bring people together in a risky situation.
Yeah, that's very responsible. So you're obviously connected to the community through a nonprofit, and I'm assuming that there's probably a cyclocross community here locally. I'm obviously not a part of that, but I don't know if it's obvious. I could, yeah, I don't know. I tell people that, I ran for a long time, and when you struggle running sub 8 miles, it's a big difference when you, like, at one point in your life were like, man, maybe I could do a sub 4. And so it's a hard thing. It's just mind blowing
to me.
Yeah. That was, it's hard to enjoy something you're bad at when you used to be good at it. So it's but yeah, so let's talk community. So there's a community that I know because we cross path through young professionals and chamber and nonprofits, but it sounds like you also have like a recreational community. And how does that change your view of like the Hendersonville, Henderson County, Western North Carolina community?
Well, I think it makes it a little more diverse. I started kind of in the public sector in the recreation field, so that was a whole different kind of subset of people in our community. Then moving over to the nonprofit world, you're so much more connected, I think, with our local businesses. You're tied in a little bit more with the local economy, although as we see with so many of the new businesses coming into Henderson County, they are recreation based, which is amazing. I love seeing that. But I think it creates a little more, everybody's in their own little groups. So whether you're in your small business group or your nonprofit group or your crazy cyclocross group or your running group, whatever it is, we all tend to kind of stay in our little clusters of people where we're and we know people. So, having both of those really allowed me to have 2 different groups, and there are crossovers between them. And one of the things that is really fun for me is if I can take somebody that I know from cyclocross or from a different sporting event or, group, and say, hey, you need to meet this person, or you need to get involved with this small business or this local media company. That's really fun and exciting. And, I feel like because I am in both of these groups at a fairly involved level, I like to think anyway, that I can help create some bridges and community connectivity, as I call it, between different groups and different people.
Yeah, I think being that connector is such a powerful tool to use in business, but also in our personal lives. And it's very fulfilling, even when you get nothing more than just being that connector of 2 people or 2 organizations or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's super great. And I think it's just, it allows you to think about things in a different way, because I can take my previous experience and come into a nonprofit and apply things that maybe never had been thought of, and vice versa. And, a lot of it is just creating space for you to get different ideas and different feedback. Because there are so many times, like, I'll just go off for a bike ride, or I'll be chatting with people on a bike ride, and I have an idea and it solves whatever problem I'm working on at work or whatever. And, that wouldn't have maybe happened otherwise. So just for me, it helps create space, and yeah, it creates opportunities professionally and personally that maybe would never have happened otherwise.
Yeah, and it sounds like so people talk about a work-life balance, and it sounds like you're not really having a balance. It's just who you really are, right? So it's just like, this is Laura, and I ride bikes, and I'm going to solve Blue Ridge Humane problems while I'm biking. But then, you know, who knows what you're doing at work that may assist in that. And it's an interesting, I don't know, maybe you should expand on it and talk about how that really impacts your life of having those two super important things that you're passionate about kind of melding and just being who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say work-life balance, because that's definitely been something that I've struggled with. And by struggled, I mean, like, there aren't very well-defined boundaries between that. And I mean that not in a negative way, but just in, you know, I put a lot of passion into whatever I do. That's something that I identified at a young age that I need, whether it was in my job or any pursuit that I go do or challenge or whatever it is. So to have things that can overlap and be fulfilling, but also mutually beneficial, is really fulfilling to me. And I don't know, in fact, I do. If I had to be somewhere where it was very rigid, very, this is what you do, there's no letting it bleed out into your personal life or into your hobbies or anything like that, or vice versa, bringing your hobbies into it or expertise from outside of something that fits so rigidly into your job description, you know, that's not something that I would be happy doing. It's not a work environment that I would thrive in and be the best person for that position. I know there are positions like that out there, but I know I'm not going to be the best fit for that. So yeah, having that variety, I think, is really good too. I mean, I can, if I need to quote unquote escape from whatever problem I'm trying to solve at work, or just, I mean, work stress. I mean, a job is a job, and I love my job so much, but there are stressful days, there are long days, and to have something where I can go and also remove myself from it in a positive way is really good. And like I said, I solve so many problems or have so many ideas when I take myself out of it. So having something that's always there for me to go do that's not my job, I mean, in my job and in my personal life at home too. I mean, I think everybody should have that thing. And I don't know, you know, I was lucky. I was exposed to it early on and fell into it and had so many people that helped me get more involved in it and learn and be a part of it. So I know some people haven't found that yet, and it can be really scary to go and try to do new things and all that. But what I've seen across our community is there are people that are passionate and excited about whatever they're doing, whether it's hiking or walking their dogs or taking pictures of waterfalls or meeting up for cars or whatever. There are people who, they know all about it, and they would love to hold your hand from 6 feet away, of course, right now. But they would love to share that with you and help you, you know, see if maybe that's your thing too, so that you can have that fulfilling thing that's outside of work, which I think a lot of us, and I tend to do this too. I tend to throw myself into my job 100%. So it's good to have something where I can pull back and be like, okay, you know what? Like, I need a break. I need to step away, and I need to make my weekends my own. Or I need to go do this and take a minute and come back and be a better employee, better person when I come back from
Yeah.
it.
I think that the world has, or the business environment in it, you know, at least the United States has changed where people are super passionate about the work they do, right? Like, we're not grabbing our lunch buckets and going down to the mines or to the manufacturing plant and doing the same rote processes. You know, like, we're actually passionate about what we're doing. I mean, I know that you have such a passion for the job that you have that, you know, but it becomes easy, like you said, to live your job. And so I think that that's important, right? So that as we become more passionate about work, to realize that it's important to find a passion in life that is separate from that, even if they do meld and mesh. But but yeah, finding that creative outlet I have found is helpful. And whether that creative outlet be, cyclocross or painting or photography or, I know people that their outlet and their passion is sitting home and watching, movies, and that's okay too, as long as you can find that outlet. But yeah, I think you have a powerful point that finding that passion outside, or that personal outside of work passion, could be very helpful to your success at work.
Well, and I'll take that one step further too. I mean, if you have that thing, you don't feel compelled that you necessarily have to share it with your partner or your spouse too. Like for me with racing, that's something that I do mostly by myself. And in some ways that's really good for my relationship when I come home too, because it's like, hey, guess what? I did this and I did this. What did you do? And I feel like so many people, they have this expectation, like, if I'm going to go do something, my partner, my spouse needs to do that with me too. That's important in the same way that as you create that space from your job or from anything really, to also have that at home too, because it allows you to do what you're interested in, and it allows your partner to do what they're interested in without too much stress or anything like that too. So I think, there do need to be these kind of little buckets for yourself. And it's not being selfish. It's taking care of yourself and taking care of your relationships as well.
Yeah. And I think that I've heard recently the analogy of like marriage, like you each have your own boxes. And so you need to fill the other person's box. And then they need to be filling your box. And it's very, especially with everything going on, it's very easy for people to feel like they have an empty box and that nobody's filling it. And so, but allowing your partner to know, hey, this is my thing. So early in my marriage, it was like I was a hiker and a camper, and my wife is not. and I tried to like push her towards it. Like, no, you'll enjoy this. I swear. Like, you just have to do it more.
It's so fun.
And she was miserable, And so what we had to learn is like she can just support me in that. Like, it doesn't have to be that she does it. She could just support that I love it, that I need to disappear into the woods sometimes. And then I had to learn the same for her. Like, she likes to buy a piece of furniture and re-up it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, there's furniture in our garage and spray paint everywhere. And, but I had to like support her in that. It's not something that I want to do or spend a Saturday doing, but it's what she wants to do. And that's, and that's, I think what you're saying is that it doesn't have to be together, but it could still be supportive. I'm sure Kyle cheers you on all the way through your races, and that's important. But yeah, that's a great thing, that work and play balance, and making sure that you have that outlet, because it's a grind. The world is a grind.
It can be, yeah. Even in the best situations, it can be, and especially lately, I think there's added stress. There's so much going on, and it's even when you're trying to not get too immersed in it, it's still there, and being educated and informed, you still feel it. So I think right now it's easy, I think, to lose motivation. It's easy to feel tired and like you're not engaged, but I think it's even more important to kind of just get over that hump and get out there. Like, I've never had a bad bike ride. I've had bad starts to bike rides. I've not wanted to start them, but I get out there and it's always better when I come back. And that's, whatever it is, I think we need to keep taking care of ourselves so that we can take care of the people and our jobs and the things that we are passionate about.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, I have 3 questions that I ask every podcast guest. And so I'm going to throw them at you now. The first, and I'm excited to hear this because if you're not following Laura on Instagram, you should. She's one of my favorite follows in our community. We don't have a lot of like highly active, especially in their own personal, like a lot of it's business. But Laura is like a good mix of, you'll see stuff in the community, you'll see her cyclocross, you'll see her, but she puts like books out there and some of your personal growth stuff that you share, which I love seeing when people share their personal growth and their love for the community. So the first question, I'm very excited to hear what you say, because we have had multiple conversations about this. But what in the last 6 months has been the most influential book that you've read?
I think this was in the 6-month window. It's hard for me to remember because time is so weird right now. But the most influential book in my short-term memory would be The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. As an event person, as a, somebody who loves to bring people together, it was really interesting because it talks about just basically any type of gathering, from a classroom setting to a dinner in your house to a fundraising event, concerts, etc. And for anybody that does any type of thing where you bring people together, which is almost all of us, it was really interesting. I mean, it was a mix of, professional studies, scholarly studies, what she's seen and learned as a professional facilitator of gatherings and all that sort of stuff. So I recommend it. It kind of falls in what I call the pop psychology, which I love reading because I try to read a little bit before bed every night. So it's interesting enough that I'm engaged and I remember things, but it also puts me to sleep in about 10 to 15 minutes. It's not a fiction book. I'm not sucked into it so much that I can't actually go to bed. But yeah, The Art of Gathering, it was really eye-opening and on lots of different levels.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. The Art of Gathering. I always laugh when I see the gather signs now because I'm like, are those contraband, or is it okay that we have those? Can we gather? But yeah, no, that's interesting. Well, great. Well, that'll be in the show notes. So check that out if you are gathering or getting people together. That's awesome.
Or planning together.
Or planning. Yeah. I'm intrigued in that. Okay. Second question. What is something, and you don't have to stick to the timeline, I just say 6 months, but in recent memory, something that you, and I'm going to qualify this also, not only does it not have to be in the last 6 months if you can't recall, but it can't be work from home, and it can't be something to have to do with COVID. But what is something that you had to say no to in the last, in your recent history?
I don't really have a specific thing. It's just being more mindful in general of my schedule, and kind of my side hustles, the things that I'm involved with outside of my 8 to 5. I like being involved. I like having a finger in a little bit of everything. So it's easy for me to overbook and overcommit myself just because I want to be out there. I want to do these things. I want to help here. I want to help there. I want to get it can get to be a lot. So it's just kind of been a more general reduction in what I commit myself to, and keeping especially like my weekends, keeping those just less booked up. So I know that's not super specific, but it's something that I've had to be more mindful of. I mean, even if it's just committing to seeing people or going on a group ride or whatever it comes down to, just kind of limiting what I do.
Yeah, I think that the large majority of answers revolves around time. So that makes complete sense. So what are you doing to kind of limit that? Are you just taking a block of time and saying, I'm not filling it?
Yeah, more or less. I guess it took the pressure off of myself to have a set plan. So like this weekend, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's kind of rare. One of my friends just asked me, well, what are your plans for this weekend? I don't know. And I'm kind of keeping it that way so that I can fill it with something that I feel like doing. So yeah, it's just be more mindful and just not booking myself up, keeping my days off as my days off, and not thinking, oh, I'll hop on and answer a few emails, I'll schedule a few posts and it'll be fine. Just maybe that's more of it. I've said no to working when I shouldn't be working.
That's always good. Yeah, no. So I don't know if I could do that. So I'm impressed. I am I don't want to say the exact opposite, because the exact opposite would not having anything scheduled. I don't know what. So I specifically choose amount of times for the priorities in my life. And so if it's my spiritual journey, then I purposely put 10% of my week is scheduled to that. And so when you start saying like how many hours in a week, how many hours in a day, and it doesn't always feel like it doesn't really break down day by day. Week by week, I try to do, definitely month by month. But 10% of your week is a lot of hours spent And to be honest, without like for me, not going to church has made it more difficult because that time is now shorter. There's no travel time, because for me, like that was special time, taking my family on the 20-minute drive to church and home, maybe lunch after, which could be applied there too, fellowshipping with members of our church. But then the same with family. I have a specific percentage of time that I allot to family. And for me, it was because I was choosing poorly. And so I was, like you said, like I was filling my day with work, and or even being selfish, like, hey, I want to go fishing. And so I would do that. And then I would, so now in order to go fishing, I would literally have to delete a block of time and see it and say, ooh, that is family time. Should I delete family for fishing? And I have to make that choice. And my family is very understanding of my time and very respectful because I do give a lot of time to them. So there are times where I say, hey guys, like, and I think I'm going to go fishing instead of family time. And sometimes they'll be like, no, we really haven't seen you this week. And I'll be like, okay, then I guess I need to go home. But so I just have a different kind of block. And it's the same with work. Like I only try to work a specific percentage of time.
That's a cool way to do it though. I'm thinking, I don't know what the percentages are that I put towards things necessarily. So I'm kind of curious to look at my schedule and the hours and quantify it a little more. And like, my cycling coach in college said, what can be tracked can be improved. If you're not tracking it, if you don't know what you're putting in, then you don't know if it's worth the sacrifice to be like, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this and all that. So I like that.
Yeah. And that's where it came from. Cause I was like, well, I won't work and I'll go fishing. But what I didn't realize is that I was not having family time at all. And so then it's like, well, maybe I should schedule family time so that decision is set. And I actually know what I'm saying no to, right? Because if I'm saying yes to fishing, then I'm saying no to something. And so embracing that idea of when we say yes, we say no. And when we say no, we say yes to something too. So I've embraced that completely. Great conversation. So last question. This is the big one. If I was to give you a billboard, and millions and millions and millions of people were going to see this billboard, what would you put on
it? So I thought about this one because I knew it was coming.
Loyal listener.
Yeah, absolutely. Giving the thumbs up on YouTube. Basically, it's a piece of a meta meditation. And it's something that just kind of reflects my own spiritual views and values growing up in the church and all that. And just, we're here to love people and to treat them well. And that's right now, it may be a little harder because there's a lot of division. There's a lot of stress at home and at work. And, you and I, we're very blessed and we're very privileged in the situations that we're in. And I know not everybody is, but with all that said, one of the things that I kind of keep coming back to as just a reminder of what I want to put out there and how I want to be treating people is kind of summarized by this. So I'm just going to put it out there for all these millions of people to see, and hopefully it kind of is that reminder for them to do this as well. So it's 4 simple lines, and it's may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, and may you live with ease. And it's just a simple little 4-line kind of meditation that just reminds me to treat people in a way that I hope leaves them feeling that happy, healthy, safe, and in some way eases their life. And may never know, don't need to know, but if that's the impact that I've left with people or reminded people to treat other people with, then I'm happy.
That's great. That's a powerful billboard. Laura, thank you so much for being on the Jared Bellmund Show. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, it's been a privilege. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching the Jared Bellmund Show. Be sure to hit subscribe, ring the bell for future notifications, and check out the description for more information.